a non-action meeting. I'm hoping we have a quorum of our members, but it would not be required at this time. So I'm calling the meeting to order, and Shauna, can you help me take roll call so I know who's there?
Absolutely. All right, Leslie Johnstone?
I'm here.
Ms. LaVon Lewis? Perhaps not. Dr. Jameson?
This is Scott Kipper from the Division of Insurance.
Thank you, Scott. Marie Kerr?
I'm here.
Thank you. Dr. Ford?
Hello, this is Dennis Belcourt.
All right. Director Wilden?
Here in Carson City.
And Director Mullenkamp?
Here.
All right, we have Scott on the phone. Vice Chair Atkins?
I'm here.
And Chair Campbell?
Here.
All right, we do have a quorum.
Okay. Did we call out for Dr. Ford?
I did call out for Dr. Ford. She did not respond.
All right, thank you. Before we get started this afternoon, and on behalf of the board of directors and myself personally, I want to publicly thank John Hager for his 2 years of devoted and tireless dedication to the development of the Silver State Health Insurance Exchange. John is one of the most intelligent young men that I've ever met, and I know he will be successful at whatever he does in the future. So, what I would like to also announce at this time is that this meeting needs to adjourn at 1 p.m. It's going to be difficult to manage because this is all done by telephone conferencing, and I would appreciate everyone's help in, first of all, if you can keep your phones on mute unless you are a speaker. If you are speaking, you need to identify yourself because most people will not recognize your voice. Thirdly, if I would ask that you never put your phone on hold. When that happens, usually we get ads or elevator music, and that really disrupts behavior. I would ask that you never put your phone on hold. When that happens, usually we get ads or elevator music, and that really disrupts behavior. I would ask that you never put your phone on hold. When that happens, usually we get ads or elevator music, where I can hear myself on 11 seconds away.
If you can hear me, can you put your phones on hold? Excuse me, I'm mute. Barbara, can you hear me?
I can. I'm getting feedback where I can hear myself with about a 30-second delay. I don't know if that's because we've got different phone lines coming in.
Okay, let's
gone away
try
now. It's gone away now. And then lastly, because of our time limitation today, I am going to limit the public comment to 3 minutes. If you do have any written materials to submit, let me give you a fax number, and that number is 775-687-9932. Again, that's 775-687-9932. All right, so with that, Mr. Ruth, do you have any other announcements?
I would just also point out that that fax number is at the top of the agenda. For those of you who could not hear, perhaps Chair Campbell saved the numbers.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'm going to open it up to public comment now. And for those that are going to give us public comment, could you please identify yourself for the record?
Barbara, I just wanted to say it's Dr. Jameson. I am on the call.
All right, thank you, Dr. Jameson. All right, so let's open it up.
Barbara, this is LaVon Lewis. I am also on the call.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Lewis. All right, there's only one other, Dr. Ford. Have you joined us? Okay, looks like we have all our members present except for Dr. Ford. Thank you. Let's move to public comment. Is there anyone that would like to identify themselves and give us public comment?
This is Babette Bond with the Nevada Health Co-op. I'd like to provide public comment.
Yes, thank you.
Ready?
Yes.
Thanks for the opportunity. We need to start a conversation with the Exchange Board. For the record, my name is Babette Bond, and I am the founder of the Nevada Health Co-op. And the co-op is coming up along the ACA, alongside the exchanges, and is the only nonprofit entity on the exchange, and has been working diligently as well for the last 2 years to create a consumer-oriented and operated and member-owned co-op. And we have not provided testimony in front of the board before, and this is a hard day to do that. So we'd like to reserve an opportunity to talk to you about the impact of the exchange and Xerox on the viability of not just the exchange, but the harm that it's causing to members and to this Nevada homegrown co-op that we're so proud of. Today, we're going to send a letter detailing these issues because in deference to your schedule and your time, I know this is going to be too long, our issues, but we would like to reserve a place to have another meeting where we can be more specific and go into more detail about the issues that we're having with the exchange. Basically, today we have 5 categories of issues, and we believe that Xerox is aware of these problems and has actually created these problems and not corrected these problems in a way that allows us to be working with the exchange so that we can both be successful enterprises. Number 1, most importantly and timely, is the list of PENs. We've got this list of pending possible enrollees and others who have enrolled or tried to enroll and have not communicated as enrolled. We still have people on this list from January that have never been identified as ours. We have more people coming on as February. We've never received clarity about this list, though we've asked, and the list has existed for months. The second issue is Xerox's current actions. Even though we heard testimony last week about a patient who's on this PEN list, they're only now working with us, the co-op, on a specific patient issue and specific patient concern. Meanwhile, the rest of the PEN list goes unaddressed, and more Nevadas are subject to the same risk that this patient last week testified about. So it's the idea that they're isolating one person at a time instead of handling the whole issue of these PENs. The third issue is the financial cost to our reputation because Xerox isn't accepting responsibility for these problems. Cards have not been mailed on time because we didn't have patient information, but the slowdown in business processes that have been created are not because of the co-op failings. The co-op is ready and willing to accept patients. We have 37% of the market on the exchange, but we are funded by a federal loan by the government that requires us to grow in order to succeed. And so our wagon's very much hitched to the viability of the exchange this first year. We have patients that are frustrated at the co-op for things that were created by the exchange, and it's draining resources away from our ability to proactively manage our new members. So that's the third issue. The fourth issue is the financial cost of patients not receiving plan information from us. Patients are accessing care that we don't even know we have, and we can't either help them navigate health care, intercede on their behalf, get them into the right health care, and our business model is based on getting people the right care at the right time, the right place, and be proactive as possible about that. And then the last one is we believe a very poor prognosis for the last 5 weeks of enrollment. You have less than 20,000 members enrolled. The goal for the exchange was 118,000. Our numbers are based on those early projections, and the viability of our startup, any startup, depends on the exchange putting us in the same boat, depends on the exchange being able to get those numbers up. And so we're in the same boat as many consumers where we're depending on the exchange for healthcare coverage and for our healthcare entity to survive. We're going to be here. The exchange is not going to keep the co-op from becoming the entity that we hope it will become in Nevada, but we're not sure how to do it with the exchange in the position that it's in right now because it's the dominant force on our enrollment this year. And we're just getting to the point where we don't think in the next 5 weeks there's time to fix the things that needed to be fixed 4 months ago. So we will follow up with you in more detail, but I wanted to get us into the loop on your communications and provide as much detail as we can on where our challenges are. And I appreciate the time, especially because I'm having speed talk here.
Thank you, Ms. Bond. Do we have anyone else for public comment? Is there anyone in the hearing room in Carson City, Mr. Ruth?
No.
All right. Hearing no further public comment, I'm going to turn to the next agenda item, which is the present. Can I ask people on their phone on mute? We're getting feedback. And I don't know who's in the hearing room. Mr. Ruth, can you help me get started on the next agenda item, which is the presentation of the Xerox report to the board?
Yes, the next agenda item is the Xerox status report to the board regarding corrective actions on the implementation of the Nevada HealthLink web portal, call center, and other contractual obligations. I believe that David Hamilton is going to be presenting, or at least starting the presentation. David, are you on the line?
I am, Shauna, and I am, Madam Chair. So first of all, thank you for the very frank discussion at last week's meeting. We recognize frustrations are high. The board, the exchange, the citizens of Nevada have clearly communicated concerns, and they've registered with us. My aim today is to go deeper with respect to the progress we've made to resolve issues that will help Nevadans gain access to care through the exchange. We haven't resolved every problem yet, but we are making progress, and I'm going to speak to that progress today and also stand for whatever folks would have of us. I also have with me the detailed folks who are in each of these distinct areas so that we can go down to as low a level of detail as possible. So with your permission, Madam Chair, I'd like to quickly summarize a number of the things that we've been working on, and then walk through a presentation that I believe members have and that is available on the website. Over the response to concerns and issues with respect to the exchange and Xerox's support, we've made a number of improvements, and we've spoken to that in last week's meeting in terms of member service improvements that are driven out of the call center, and we continue to see those gains this week. We also have made progress with respect to reducing defects in the system, and we've set up several dedicated units to help with respect to any continuing open issues, both with respect to carrier partner issues and consumer issues. We refer to these as special case teams. Just to quickly highlight, our average wait time on our last meeting was approximately 10 minutes, and statistically through our instrumentation and survey, we now see that as of 2/19 as being approximately 1 minute. We've also made, over the course of the last week, 10 days, a number of improvements with respect to the correspondence backlog process, and we've reduced that 15%, or really almost 5,000 distinct pieces of correspondence, emails, letters, etc., that we've received, and we have a plan to take that down over the course of the next several weeks to get current and to be within a 3-day turnaround cycle on that correspondence. Over the same period, we've also closed 143 escalation cases. Those are the special cases where some issue with respect to either the system or paper processing has gotten in the way of an enrollment, and we've been able to close that. We are actively now chronicling and measuring and managing those special cases, and we'll have detailed reports to share in terms of how we're doing to take that backlog down. Also, just a quick side with respect to Ms. Bond's comment, we are also putting together programs, and we will elaborate those this afternoon, that will speak to dealing with the broader issues, not just case by case. And we'll get into that in terms of the additional outreach plans and programs that we have The number I believe that was cited at our last meeting was 60,000 eligibility determinations, and we have an outreach campaign planned with respect to email, outbound calling, etc., that will be kicking in, and we'll be able to speak to that in today's update. Finally, with respect to the software portal, we had, again, in our last meeting, 182 production defects, of which we have closed 48 of them, and you'll see a schedule later in this presentation by our technology leader that will go more deeply into both the development schedule, the continuing development schedule, but also the plan with respect to taking those defects down. We are slightly ahead of schedule with respect to removing those defects, recognizing that that's even ahead of the current schedule time where we would all like to be. If I could turn your attention to page 4 in our presentation. I am not going to go row by row in terms of this presentation. What instead I wanted to share is that it in fact is something that we've established and are tracking from a holistic view. There are drill downs off of this view, and this will become a key program management tool and element for us, and we will continue to share this both with Exchange leadership as well as with board leadership. In the next several slides, I will be asking several of our operating managers who are working with the Exchange or have been recently added to Xerox's team in support of the Exchange to speak to a number of these elements and the progress that we've made over the course of the last several weeks. So if I could turn your attention to slide 5, I'd like to refer to Kristen Baca, who's our leader responsible for our member service and enrollment activity, and ask Kristen to give an update in terms of her team's progress in this area, particularly in the last week. Kristen, are you on the line?
I am. Everybody hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you fine.
Madam Chairman and additional members, this is Kristen Baca. I have been with Xerox CCS for more than 13 years, and I've been on board with David and his team and on the ground for more than 6 weeks. That was just a little background. I want to make sure you guys knew who I was. In this enrollment slide, what I wanted to show to you is currently today we're sitting at 18,255 members. We have identified multiple mini campaigns for people who previously visited the HealthLink portal. And with those mini campaigns, we have outreach, as David indicated, both from an email blast, outbound phone call, or a letter to enroll, entice, and bring people back to the exchanges. Our population is more than 500,000. These are just mini campaigns that we're going after in the next week and a half, 2 weeks. Many of these email blasts are starting up this weekend. We have a letter, outbound letter, going out this weekend. We also have an email blast starting on Sunday for the individual with valid demographics. So as you can see, we're kicking it off in full steam, both from mini campaigns and also the next section, which is with our carriers. We will be doing outreaches with our carriers to start to identify how we can do drop, as the lady indicated at the beginning of the call, on how we can do some additional drop notes and put more campaigns out there to entice and enroll people back into the exchange. From there, I'm going to go into the next 2 slides for our member service area. As you can see, yes, ma'am.
Kristen, this is Barbara Campbell. Before you move on slide 5, the enrollment statistics, can you explain some of the terminology in here? It doesn't compute for me.
Sure.
I understand the population, where you talk about 230,000 in a population for an email blast, but go down to the 4th line where it says fully paid, and you only have 241 in that population. What is it that you're doing in that line item there?
So in this line item, we have 2 pieces. We're doing outbound calls if we have a phone number for our member, or we have an outreach through either an email blast or letter that we have been kicking off. And in this case, we have all three happening because we don't have all membership information within their file today. What we tried to do in this section is say, where did people stop moving forward within the exchange themselves? And we isolated that population and created a campaign around bringing them back. So when you have a great deal of information like the demographics, we can say, you've went so far within it, please come back and finish up that enrollment.
Hey, Kristen, if I could, it's Madam Chair, it's David Hamilton. With respect to that fourth line item, what I would share is I believe there are 241 people where we have received a payment, but there is incomplete enrollment information. So not the case, for example, that we've only received payment for 241 people. We've received payment for over 18,000. These are a select case where we have a check or some other payment with an unmatched enrollment application, and it's going back out to that subset, I believe, Kristen. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct, guys.
Madam Chair, does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. I think, we'll get used to this format as you move forward, but sometimes it just doesn't click when you're going through it the first time.
Oh, and we'll try and make this a bit more clear, or include, if it is in fact something that's quite technical, we'll include a glossary that will make this more readable and not have to elaborate with the question. So thank you for the question and the opportunity. We'll improve the presentation.
Let me ask any of the board members before we move off of page 5. Do you have any questions on the enrollment statistics?
Well, sure. I'm sorry, am I speaking at the same time? I don't know if it's a question. It's more a comment. My experience is the first lady who spoke, by the way, is Bobette Bond. She's very, very helpful with giving you information that you might not know about the state or about her particular organization. And if you work with her in particular, she will be very helpful for you. And I don't know if you're doing it right now, but if you're not, you need to be, in solving the problems that, because she is very good at identifying those and may be able to help you come up with ideas about how to fix them. Okay?
Absolutely.
So I'd like there to be, in terms of your broker meetings, make sure Bobette is on those and reach out to her. Because she and her organization are very, very helpful. Thank you.
That's a great comment, and we will take that. And not only expand it just with Ms. Bobette that spoke here, but to all of our carriers. And that's what we're doing with that bottom section, reaching out to all carriers. And I will make sure that Bobette is included in that. Any other comments?
Madam Chair?
Yeah, is there comments on page 5?
Yes.
This is Florence Jameson on page 5. I guess my confusion on that breakdown, first off, I do think it's a great breakdown. Now we explained it, I'm understanding how it is, what it means, but my confusion lies more with the small number of enrollments. It seems like a huge number of people that fully paid, and that 241 out of, 18,000 people we now have enrolled. That's a huge percentage of people that have fully paid, and yet their enrollment application and their insurance isn't taken care of. I think that's where my big question is, wow, how would 241 people have fully paid and not have their insurance application completed? It wasn't so much just
Yeah, Dr. Jameson, it's David Hamilton. So thank you for the question, and let me just try and restate, because I obviously was not as clear as I could have been, and I apologize for that. That 241 represents what I would tell you are checks in hand with an incomplete enrollment. We actually do have the remainder of the system is quite fully paid. So it is only those 241, less than 1%, actually about 1%, that we have a check but an incomplete enrollment application. The rest of it, that 18,000 plus, we're actually fully paid.
I understood that. It was that I couldn't believe, but are they fully paid and their application's incomplete and they're actually not having services yet?
That would be what that would imply to me. We've got to go back to those consumers and just clarify with them and finish their enrollment wherever it might be stuck.
And are they aware that they not have an active insurance policy, all of those 241, even though they paid?
I can't answer the question, Dr. Jameson, but yes, that very much could be the condition.
I just think it'd be important to minimally contact them and let them know they may not have an active policy.
That's exactly what we're doing. That's exactly what we've been kicking off. Dr. Jameson.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. If there aren't any other
Madam Chair?
Sorry, sir. When are you going to get in touch with all of them? If that was me, I'd be really worried.
I couldn't. This is Crystal. I couldn't hear you.
This is Marie Kerr. When are you going to get in touch with those 241 people? Is there like a set deadline? If that was me, if I was one of the 241, I'd be, I don't have any chronic illness, but if I did, I'd be pretty much freaking out. I'd like to know if you have a set deadline, and if not, set one today.
Yes, ma'am. So our set deadline is to have all of those outreach completed by Sunday. We have already started that campaign, that outbound campaign.
I'm sorry, could you if you are not speaking, could you put your phone on mute? Getting a lot of feedback.
Please put your phone on mute. We're getting a lot of feedback.
Hello?
Someone is having a conversation. Please put your phone on mute. Thank you.
All right, let's move on to the status of the call center.
Madam Chair, this is Leslie Johnstone. I've got a couple of questions on page 5.
Yes, thank you.
The first one is, what does the second line under enrollment, what is valid blob data?
Thank you.
It's different data at different points. So we might have some demographics, some financial information. And so blob data is where we have, multiple criterias or fields. And so we stick them together, and I apologize for our crude way we're calling it, but we call it blobs. We have specific fields that fall into that blob category. And Leslie, Miss Leslie, I will call that out and show you the categories next week.
Thank you. My next question is on the email and the letters going out. Who is looking at those for their being consumer friendly? We don't need a bunch of technical letters, emails going out that are not clear to me.
That's a very good question. This is Kristen again. So our process today is we draft a letter, email blast, or outbound call script. We run those by Shauna today, and she gives us feedback on how to revise or modify that information, and then we make those modifications and push them through the process.
I would be very curious to see a couple of samples, if that would be all right.
Yes, we will get those sent over. And then is that Madam Chairman?
That's fine. I'm having a little bit of difficulty hearing because of that conversation in the background. And do we have any other questions from board members on enrollment then?
Madam Chair, Jeff Mullenkamp.
Yes.
Just in general, I think we've asked a few questions trying to dig into what these numbers mean. I think just for future reports, if you could be a little bit more detailed as to specifically what this represents, because even the 95,000, 96,000, it would be helpful for us to have a description of what the challenge is, so we understand specifically.
Jeff, we cannot hear you.
For those on the phone, if you're having a conversation, can you please put your phone on mute?
All right. Jeff, can you restate that, please?
Yes, Madam Chair, can you hear me?
You're going to have to speak over this person on the line that's talking.
No, it's Jeff Molenkamp. I was just suggesting that I was just dovetailing on the other comments that I think Xerox needs to be much more detailed on these numbers as to specifically what the problems are and break them down further for us, because I think it's too aggregated for us to really understand where these things are bogging down in the process.
This is David Hamilton. We will certainly take it to break this down, as well as to make the categories more descriptive.
I mean, they're figuring it out. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Barbara.
Shauna, this is Barbara. If we disconnect this phone line, will it just person that
someone? But there was
So if we disconnect the phone line and have everyone call back in, if that person does not also disconnect, they would still be on the line.
Is there another phone line we can call into?
My concern is that the public agenda, the public notice for this meeting was given this particular number, and there's no way to put that number out publicly.
From the driver on the call. Wheelchair.
I can't hear a thing because of that person talking.
Okay.
For almost 10 years now.
I'm not sure who's talking on the phone. Can you please put your phone on mute?
It's a female voice, so female voice, please put your phone on mute.
God knows where.
So, Barbara, the only thing that we could do is if we put you on mute and you could hear us, but we could not hear you if we continue that conversation. Do you want us to do that?
You know what, Shauna? I can't even hear what they're saying.
Can you put them on air? That's not working.
That's not working.
That's not. If you don't hear anything here, okay.
We're making an adjustment on our side.
Donna, I really don't know what to do. I can't hear anything that's going on.
Barbara, we're trying to make an adjustment on our side so that it would mute everybody on the phone. You will be able to hear us in the room, but you won't hear anybody on the phone.
Okay.
Can allow presenters and maybe a presenter who has a conference line to it's a call.
To place all participants in broadcast mode, press 1 to begin a voting and polling session. All participants are now in listen-only mode.
All right, Barbara, what we've done is we have put everybody on the phone in a listen-only mode. So I'm hoping that you can hear us now. I'm going to have Damon send you an email to confirm that. We're going to continue this presentation, and hopefully you can hear us. We will open up the phone line for comment periodically. So Judy, you are here in the room.
Okay.
You get to take on.
Okay, I'll be happy to. I will tell you not all of these are my towers, so I will do my best to present the material as the experts would have, as well as answer any questions that may be from here in the room. Any other questions regarding the enrollment statistics in the room?
So for those who could not hear us earlier, I think Mr. Molenkamp's comments were that for the growth initiatives for these different buckets of people, we would like to see more information, more description on what the issue is with each of these people so that we know that the email blast is an appropriate method. Jeff, am I stating that correctly?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Sean, yeah, there's just one other comment following up on Jeff's comment. I would like to know, I guess, sort of what do we need to do to get the best bang for the buck? So my interpretation of this is blob data is probably just that, blobs of data, and probably not a lot of bang for the buck. But clearly people who are in shopping mode, there's probably more of a bang for the buck there. So I just need a better understanding. If those 53,000 people that are all the way through the system to shopping, you must have good demographics on them. You must have, it's not blobby data, it's good solid, they're shopping. And so that seems to be where we need to focus is people who are shopping or people who are in the payment process, not blobs of data, if we're going to get bang for the buck. Unless I don't understand the data correctly.
Mr. Mullenkamp, your suggestion was very good, and we will add clarification to the categories. I would also add that we will add what types of communications will go to each of those categories, as opposed to just timing. If it's the shopping individuals, what else can we do to entice them? And of course, that will take some interaction with the carriers because we want to showcase what they have available through the exchange.
And just one last piece of follow-up, Joe Camp again for the record. I think what I'm really looking for is, there's a start and a finish line for somebody going through the process. And where are they getting bogged down? So kind of a pictorial, if you will, of how far into the process are people bogging down and how many people are bogging down at what stage of the process. This is helpful, but it doesn't quite paint that picture. And I think that would be helpful for us to understand. Are they bogging down at the very early pieces where they're trying to enter basic data, or are they bogging down near the very end where they simply can't get a payment completed and everything else is done? And if we could get that in a picture, I think it would be very helpful.
Okay. And because I am now the presenter, and sorry, I am Judy Feldhaber. I've been with Xerox for 10 years. I have previously owned and operated a third-party administration company and run national practices and service units. I joined this project 3 weeks ago, so to the extent of the knowledge that I have today, I will answer your questions. If I cannot answer your question, I will certainly take it down and make certain you obtain a response. That is a very good question. My understanding at the beginning, there were several system problems that people were getting bogged down in the system. Xerox has worked diligently to remove those barriers to entrance into the plan, and you can see a performance improvement. But the snapshot, including the enrollment dates for you, or the periods of times where people were getting bogged down in the system, I think sounds like that would be very helpful for you at the next meeting. Okay. Other questions regarding the statistic?
We're going to open up the call for questions and answers, so we can do that at this point.
I just got an email from the chair, and she's asked for Mike to chair the rest of the meeting.
Okay.
So, Mike, if you wouldn't mind stepping into that role.
Do you want to open it up and see if we can get questions?
Yeah, I would say that we should do that. Let's open it up and see if there's any questions at this point in time. And then we'd move on to page 6.
This conference is now locked.
Continue.
Continue. So, Judy, if you would, continue page 6.
Okay. Again, Christy Baca, who you previously heard of, is managing or a temporary resource for the status or for the call center. She is managing this and managing, of course, the statistics that you were seeing. There has been an improvement over the last 7 days, and we are now reaching and maintaining an average wait time of less than a minute. It does vary slightly between the participants and the broker line, and we are addressing that as we speak. We do feel an obligation to make certain members are getting their questions answered so that they can get through the system. The call abandonment rate is also decreased from 20% to 3.4% in the last 7 days, and Xerox is focused on maintaining that. We believe that the improvement in our performance is due to increasing the staffing. We have extended hours. Our individuals are working very hard in outbound calling campaigns as well. So individuals and members we weren't able to reach before, we are proactively reaching out to them so they are not having to call in and queue within our service system. With that, and I apologize, Christian would have been the person with more detail, but I'd be happy to take questions regarding the call center itself.
So Mike Wilden, I have one question. obviously, the time to connect or whatever are improved. But one of the questions I think that the board has heard over and over, statements, not question, is people connect, but the call center representatives don't seem to be able to answer their question, and they get transferred up and down the supervisory chain. Is there a set of metrics that can be provided that, just because you answered the call in a minute, what's our success of resolving complaints? Because we've heard several people go, I got transferred to Texas, I got transferred to Florida, I got transferred somewhere, and I didn't get my problem resolved, and then I got transferred back. You answered the call timely, but there's no resolution.
Okay. That is a very good question. And I would suggest, again, being on the project for 3 weeks, that was a particular problem at the beginning, as we do realize we had issues. Many of those issues pertain to, of course, finance questions, and it did require more than one touch point for a person to resolve the issue. I happen to also be the manager of the tower, bringing in the escalation in the case management special unit. And so what we are working towards when we take a case, which is assigned to a case manager, they are to work it through to the member. We did find that there were transferred calls, but now if a member calls and they have one problem, maybe two, we will work those through completion and then get back to that member, therefore not requiring them to call us back. We will proactively reach out and give them a status. I believe that many of the calls early on that, individuals didn't have answers to the questions, and I will tell you one of the areas that we've identified, we're getting a lot of status calls for individuals enrolling in Medicaid. And we have re-scripted the response and added some information to our CSRs that will help to guide that person back to the appropriate resource to get their question answered. And I think that will help with a single resolution as well.
And since Mike and I are the ones taking the questions now, I have 2 questions. First, one that I received from a board member, and that is taking back to page 4, and I'm not sure if you know this, but the status column, can you tell us what the pluses and minuses are in that column?
Absolutely. Xerox is aware that we need to demonstrate process improvement. That we put together this scorecard so that we could demonstrate to you, we know the areas where we need to focus. If there is a negative or a red negative sign, that means we know we have to improve that performance. If there is a positive green sign, it's an indicator that we are on track and on target with the expectations of the exchange.
And I have a follow-up question for myself, once again, it's Jeff Molenkamp. So I see that the call center has improved dramatically, at least as far as the time to answer a call. But when I flip back and see the enrollment numbers, they really aren't going up. And can you help me correlate why we're answering calls a lot more effectively, but not getting people enrolled more effectively?
The enrollment numbers from January were 12,500. They did increase 20% in February and another 21% so far to date in March. And converting, so our growth rate at this point is 20%. The initiatives that you are seeing are to increase that 20% to a much higher rate so that we can obtain a 50,000 membership goal in medical plans. So, and if I could, Mr. Molenkamp, the second line in the first box of numbers, the initial line says prior month enrollment. The new enrollment indicates that the prior month enrollment is continuing, and those are new applicants that are getting through the system enrolled, and those individuals would have cards in their hand and be fully paid.
So then just to follow up, when I see the 20 in the effective April column, what is that telling me? Because we're not into April yet.
We already have 20 people who have enrolled for April.
It will be effective April 1st?
Will be effective April 1st. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
And I thought you said you may have 2 questions.
No, the first one was the other column. And then I'm getting one other from a board member. Sorry, I'm feeling, I don't know which board member, but one of the board members is asking about trying to get to 118,000. Obviously, that was the initial target. And here we're now looking at being at 18,000, so we're 100,000 short. Is that, when we look at the numbers of people who are trying to get in, the data, the blob data, the individuals completed applications, is that representative that we were not likely to get to that 118,000?
I'm not certain I have all the background on the 118,000 being with the project for 3 weeks, and this not being the area that I'm working on. What the numbers we are presenting here are based on a 10% conversion rate of the opportunities that we can have an influence. If you look at the center of slide 5, where the enrollment and the growth initiatives, those numbers in the middle that add up to 489,000 are the individuals for whom we have information. And a touch point at 10%, with my background in the industry, I would say that a 10% conversion rate is probably a fairly conservative number, but we also understand that within the marketplace, we need to demonstrate performance and work positively with the carriers. Any additional numbers brought on from the broker initiatives and the carrier initiatives would add to that 10% conversion rate. And as you can see in the third box, we have no numbers attached, no enrollment coming from broker initiatives and carrier initiatives. Does that answer the question?
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, would you like me to move on?
Let's go ahead and look back to, assume you're on page 7.
Page 7 represents the call center headcount, and we not only have we increased the number of active CSRs that are on the line with responding to member requests, we also continue to have members in training. Have to do this, remember, I believe that is less than 300 issues at this point. And we continue to monitor that if new issues occur. And we will ask Jill to confirm that number. Transferring the bank account responsibility from Choice to Xerox, that of course has created some issues because we could not get to necessary.
For them to maybe come in and help and provide some additional resources. I would like to have that discussed at a future board meeting as to that possibility. It could be a number of roles to, provide an assessment of where we're at, a third-party independent assessment to help with project management, to help with coding, to do plug and play on things that they've been successful in doing in other states. I just think we need to explore that.
Press star 0
help us get to
to
the
call
finish line.
additional
Because it's outside
locations.
various
Press
places and
star
everything.
1 to record this conference. Press star 2 to change entry and exit options for this conference. Press star 3 to block this conference. Press star 4 to hear the participant count. Press star 5 to mute your line. Press star.
The board just said that she just concurs with my comment and would like to get that scheduled at a future public meeting. I'm going to open it for public comment just because I want to make sure there's an opportunity. I don't know if we can get people on the phone. Is there anyone here in Carson City that would like to provide public comment? And I'm being told we won't be able to call. You can try. Go ahead. We're going to open it up and see if in the last. Sounds like deadline. Absent that, we're going to adjourn the meeting. All in favor? Thank you. Thank you for appreciating.
Yes. You're welcome.